His home was simple, a small place near open land, where the air felt clean and time moved slowly. He woke before sunrise, drank warm tea, and watched light creep across the ground. Those moments belonged only to him. They reminded him that life could be gentle if he kept it small. People often thought he was distant, but in truth he was careful. He had learned that hope could hurt when it was rushed. He had once dreamed of a loud, full future. But that dream faded after things did not turn out the way he expected. He chose safety instead and told himself that was enough. Then she entered his life in a way that felt ordinary at first. She was not loud or dramatic. She spoke with calm confidence and listened more than she talked. There was something steady about her presence that felt familiar, yet knew he noticed it before he understood it. They met through shared work and small repeated moments. A greeting here, a short talk there. Over time, these moments grew into longer conversations. They talked about simple things, daily tasks, whether memories of childhood. He found himself waiting for these talks without knowing why. She carried herself with honesty. She did not pretend or hide behind jokes. When she spoke, she meant it, and when she was silent, it felt thoughtful, not empty. He respected that. He began to trust her words, and that trust surprised him. One evening they sat together after a long day. The light was soft, and the air was still the kind of quiet that makes people speak truth without planning to. He felt relaxed and open in a way he had not felt for years. She looked at him directly, not with challenge or demand, but with clarity. Her eyes held purpose and patience at that moment. He sensed something important was coming, he felt. His chest tightened, not from fear, but from awareness. She told him she wanted a child. She said it simply, without decoration or apology. It was not a question or a plea. It was a truth she had carried for a long time, and finally shared. The words settled between them, heavy and real. He did not answer right away. He felt his thoughts scatter. Memories rushed in of choices made and paths avoided. He had promised himself never to return to such crossroads. For years he believed that chapter of life was closed. He told himself he was not meant for that kind of future. He had built walls around that belief, and now they trembled. He looked away for a moment, trying to find solid ground inside himself. The idea stirred emotions he had buried: care, responsibility, joy, fear, all rising together. He had trained himself not to feel them. She did not push. She did not explain or persuade. She simply waited. Her calm was stronger than pressure. It gave him space to breathe and think. He wondered why her words affected him so deeply. Others had spoken of dreams before, but this felt different. She was not chasing an idea. She was sharing a calling, one shaped by time and reflection. He noticed how steady her voice had been. There was no urgency, only resolve. She was not asking him to fix her life. She was inviting him to consider a shared future. That thought unsettled him more than anything. He had grown used to being alone. Decisions were easier when they affected only one life. Now the weight felt greater. He thought of his quiet mornings and solitary evenings. He imagined changed footsteps, laughter, responsibility. He also imagined meaning, connection, and growth. He realized he had not thought about the future in years. He lived in the present as a shield against disappointment. Now her words cracked. That shield, the silence stretched, but it did not feel awkward. It felt honest. He finally looked back at her. She met his gaze with the same calm strength as before. That moment he understood that nothing would be the same whether he said yes or no. The door had been opened. The idea had entered his heart. He did not respond with words yet. His mind needed time. His heart needed courage. He knew one thing, though. He could not ignore what she had said. That night he returned home with thoughts louder than the quiet around him. He sat alone as darkness settled. The calm he once relied on felt different now, charged with possibility and fear. He lay awake, thinking of roads not taken and chances lost. He wondered if resistance had protected him or limited him. He did not know the answer yet. Who to know was that a single honest sentence had stirred a life he believed was settled. And deep inside, he felt something awakening, something he had tried to forget. The night passed slowly, and sleep came in pieces. His world had shifted quietly without force. And as dawn approached, he realized that the choice ahead would define more than just tomorrow. It would shape who he was willing to become. He could not stop thinking about her words, the ones she had spoken so clearly in simply wanting a child. He had always believed he was not ready for such a responsibility, but now the thought followed him everywhere like a shadow he could not shake. Next morning he woke early as usual, but the quiet of the house felt heavier. The sunlight filtering through the windows seemed different, softer somehow. He tried to keep his routine, as if nothing had changed, but he could made his tea and sat. By the window staring outside, the wind moved the leaves slowly, and birds called from the trees. He thought about the life she had asked him to imagine, and it felt both frightening and beautiful. He remembered the past, the times he had felt hope, and lost it, the mistakes he had made and the chances he had let slip away. He realized he had been protecting himself from hurt for so long that he had forgotten how to dream again. He remembered her face, her calm eyes, the way she had looked at him without pleading, without demanding, just telling the truth. It had been simple, and yet it had shaken him more than anything in years throughout. The day he kept returning to that moment, he thought about the meaning of family, of connection, of shared life. He wondered if he had been too afraid to reach for happiness, or if he had simply been waiting for the right person. He found himself walking to the land near his house. He liked the way it stretched open and quiet under the sky. It made him feel small, yet connected the same way he had felt with her. He walked slowly, thinking about what it would mean to open his life to another life. The thought of a child brought memories he had buried. The innocence of childhood, the warmth of care, the joy of small moments. He realized he wanted that, but he also knew it would not be easy. He had to be honest with himself about fear, about his limits, about his readiness. That evening he went to her house. He did not plan to speak, only to see her. Again, he wanted to be near her, to feel her calm, to remind himself that the choice was not just about him. It was about two lives meeting and deciding together. She welcomed him quietly. They sat in the living room, talking about small things, the weather, the work, the land. The conversation flowed easily, and yet beneath it all, he carried the weight of what had been said. He finally spoke about his fears, about the past, about the uncertainty of the future. He told her he did not know if he could do it. He wanted to be honest because he realized that anything else would be worse than the fear itself. She listened without interruption. Her eyes held understanding, not judgment. She told him that she had expected fear. She had felt it herself many times. She explained that wanting a child did not mean the path would be smooth, only that the choice was worth considering. Felt a strange relief that she had not demanded an answer. He realized that she was offering him trust and space to make his own decision. That trust weighed heavily on him, but it also inspired courage. They walked outside into the soft evening air. The sky was painted with colors he rarely noticed before. The silence between them was comfortable. It was not filled with awkwardness, but with thoughtfulness and presence. He imagined the life they could build, the child they could care for, the lessons they could share. He thought about sleepless nights, laughter, tears, learning together, and growing together. He felt both the weight and the joy of such a future. She spoke about her own longing, about the years she had imagined holding a child of her own, and the patience she had learned. She did not demand that he give up anything. She only shared her truth and allowed him to consider. I've thought about his own life, the routines he had come to love, the quiet evenings and simple meals. He realized that life would change completely if he said yes, yet the thought no longer frightened him as much as it had before. He understood that love required courage and sometimes risk. He had spent too many years shielding himself, and now he saw that shielding meant missing chances that could bring joy. As night came, they sat quietly together. He could feel the bond growing. In the silent understanding that this was more than a choice, it was a crossing into a new chapter, if he was willing. Thought about the strength it would take to face responsibilities and the joy that could come from sharing a life. He considered the meaning of family not as a perfect idea, but as a daily choice, to be present, to care, to nurture, and to love. He finally spoke softly, admitting that he was afraid but willing to consider the possibility. He did not make a promise, yet he only acknowledged that her words had moved him in ways he had not expected. He lived a steady life shaped by early mornings and long quiet evenings. He worked with his hands and trusted routine more than promises. Each day followed the last with little change, and he liked it that way. It gave him peace after years of struggle and loss. He believed calm was earned through effort and silence. The night passed slowly. They stayed talking in fragments between silence and laughter, between reflection and shared memory. He realized that connection was built in small steps as much as in big decisions. He left her house with a mind full of questions and a heart open to possibility. The fear was still there, but it no longer paralyzed him. He understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of it. Returned home, walking slowly through the fields, thinking about choices, about life, about moments that could change everything. He thought about hope and trust, and the way human hearts could guide people to places they had never imagined. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to dream of the future, not alone, but with someone who shared vision and courage. He realized that her honesty had sparked something in him, something he had thought was lost forever. Days passed, and he could not stop thinking about her words. Wanting a child, he tried to continue his routine, but every task felt heavier or more fragile. His mind kept returning to her presence, the calm certainty in her eyes, and the courage it had taken to speak the truth. He went about his mornings as usual, walking through the fields, tending to work, but even in the quiet labor his thoughts wandered. He imagined laughter in the house, the sound of a small voice filling rooms, the way mornings could feel warmer with shared responsibility. He thought about fear and how it had shaped his life for years, how protecting himself had kept pain away, yet also kept joy at a distance. He wondered if the walls he had built were stronger than the life he hoped to live. Her words echoed in his mind, and he could not silence them. They were not a demand, but a mirror. He saw his own heart in them, the part that still longed for connection and the possibility of a family. He had avoided that part of himself for too long. He began to notice small signs in his daily life: a bird landing nearby, a child laughing in the distance, a neighbor sharing a simple story of care. He saw reminders of life unfolding, and it made him realize that life was not meant to be held apart or shielded from risk. He walked to her house again, not to speak about the decision, but to be near her. He wanted to feel the stability she carried and the quiet confidence that had unsettled him in the best way. He wanted to be reminded that life could be bigger than his fears. They sat together in the garden, the air soft and the earth smelling faintly of rain. They spoke of everyday things, the work, the land, the simple rhythm of life. Yet beneath it lay unspoken understanding. Each glance, each pause carried meaning beyond words. He told her about the nights spent awake thinking about choices and missed chances. She listened with patience. He realized that she understood fear and hope as two sides of the same coin. She had faced uncertainty and chosen to share her truth anyway. She spoke of dreams not as demands, but as invitations. She told him about the life she imagined, not fully mapped out, but guided by love and care. She did not ask him to promise, only to consider and to feel the weight and joy of what could be. He realized that she was teaching him courage through her example, not by pushing him, but by being honest and present. He felt something stir inside, a mixture of longing and resolve, a quiet determination to face his own heart. Evening came, and they walked slowly through the fields. His hand brushed against hers, and it felt natural, not forced. The soft air carried the scent of earth and grass, and the world seemed suspended. He felt a connection deeper than words, a sense that life was asking him to move forward. He remembered past failures, moments when he had hesitated, when he had chosen safety over possibility. He realized that he could not continue that way. If he wanted the life she had opened before him, he could not let fear alone dictate his days. He thought about what it would mean to be present for a child, to care deeply, to guide and learn in return. The idea terrified him and thrilled him at the same time. He saw that love required risk, and that the richest lives were not those without challenge, but those lived fully even with fear. She told him about patience and resilience, about the beauty in ordinary days, about holding joy lightly and fear gently. He listened and felt the truth of it sinking. In that life was not a perfect map, but a series of choices met with attention and heart. They spent hours talking into the night, not always speaking, sometimes just watching the stars, the quiet night wrapping around them. He realized that decisions of great importance did not always come with fireworks, but with clarity and quiet understanding. He felt a shift within himself. He had lived so long protecting and limiting himself that he had almost forgotten how to hope. He saw now that hope was not naive, it was active. It required presence and courage. The thought of stepping into a shared life with her and a child began to feel possible, not certain. But possible, his fear was still there, but it no longer ruled him. It had become a companion. Not a chain. He thought about morning routines, shared laughter, evenings filled with care and teaching. He imagined stumbling, learning, growing together, and he realized that imperfection could be beautiful if it was guided by intention and love, though. Night passed with long silences and gentle conversation. He could feel a connection growing, a trust that he had not felt in years. The decision ahead remained heavy, but the weight was not just fear, it was the weight of potential joy. He returned home under the stars, walking slowly and thinking deeply. He realized that resistance had served him, but now it would no longer protect him from life, only delay the inevitable choices that shaped the heart. He lay awake long into the night, feeling the quiet of the house around him. He thought about courage, about love, about human hearts reaching for connection. He realized that he could no longer avoid this path that life had presented. He understood that the future was not fully visible, and that was the point. He could plan, but he could not control. He could act with care and presence and let the rest unfold. He felt a small peace that fear and hope could exist together. He closed his eyes, thinking of her voice, her eyes in the child she hoped for. He realized that life had returned to him, not in certainty, but in possibility. And that possibility was enough to keep moving forward. He felt for the first time in years that he was ready to face life not alone, but with someone willing to share it. The days that followed felt different. He noticed small things, the way sunlight moved across the land, the sound of wind in the trees, the laughter of children passing by, and each small detail reminded him that life was alive and moving. He realized that before he had seen the world in pieces. Now he felt part of Ith. Found himself visiting her more often, not with questions, but with a quiet willingness to listen and learn. He wanted to understand the depth of her hopes and the reality of what she desired. He wanted to feel the weight and joy of her truth fully. They spent hours talking, walking through fields, sitting quietly in the garden, and sharing meals. He began to feel the ease of connection that comes from shared honesty and patience. He discovered that living with someone meant noticing the small things, caring for them, and letting them matter. One evening, he shared his fears more openly than ever before. He admitted that he worried about failure, about being enough, and about the changes a child would bring. She listened carefully without judgment and reminded him that courage was not the absence of fear, but moving forward despite either words gave him strength, but also required reflection. He realized that love and responsibility were not simple concepts, but ongoing practices. He understood that deciding to join a shared life meant committing to presence, care, and attention each day. He began to imagine mornings with laughter, soft conversations, and small routines that would shape a home. He thought about learning together, the patience required, the mistakes that would teach them both, and the joy that would grow from daily acts of care. She spoke of hope as something living, not static. She described dreams as maps that guide but do not constrain, and shared the idea that life required participation and risk in order to bloom. He felt the truth of this deeply and began to see himself as capable of more than he had allowed. The quiet walks through fields became conversations about values, about dreams, about what mattered most to them. He realized that they were not only building trust, but also preparing themselves for the possibility of new life. He saw that intention mattered more than certainty, and presence mattered more than perfection. He thought about his own life, the years he had spent avoiding risk and protecting himself. He saw now that fear had kept him from joy. He realized that courage was not reckless but deliberate, that it required choosing connection even when the outcome was unknown. Evenings became moments of reflection. He watched the stars above and considered the paths that had brought him here. He remembered past disappointments and the lessons they had offered. He felt that all those experiences had led him to this moment, where he could choose not only love, but commitment. She shared stories of her childhood, of learning responsibility and finding joy in simple acts. She spoke of waiting and hoping and of the resilience required to hold a vision for the future. He listened, and felt the depth of human strength and endurance that he could now join, he began to think not only about fear, but about joy. He imagined the sound of small laughter, the touch of tiny hands, the wonder in everyday moments that a child could bring. He felt his heart open to experiences he had once thought impossible. They worked together to imagine the life they could create. He realized that partnership required mutual respect, communication, and empathy. He saw that being present for another life was an act of courage and love that would teach him as much as he would teach the child. He felt a subtle shift within himself, a readiness to act and embrace responsibility. He understood that life required balance of patience and action, reflection, and decision. He saw that choosing hope over fear was not a single act, but a series of ongoing decisions that shaped character and heart. They discussed not just dreams, but practicalities, how to create space for growth, how to nurture confidence, and how to face challenges as a team. He felt that sharing these thoughts strengthened their connection and prepared them for a future that was both uncertain and promising. He realized that love was not a single moment, but a practice that unfolded through time, through shared experience, and through presence. He understood that courage was required every day, not just in big decisions, but in small acts of care and attention. The night sky stretched above them, and he felt the vastness of life and the opportunity it offered. He thought about stepping into this shared journey with her and a child, and felt a mixture of anticipation and grounding. He realized that fear was part of the journey, but not the guide. In quiet moments, he reflected on the courage it had taken for both of them to speak honestly and to listen. He understood that mutual trust was a gift that required protection and nurturing. He felt grateful for the honesty that had opened a path forward. He began to feel ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. He saw that stepping forward required presence and effort, and that the potential for joy outweighed the fear. He understood that embracing life fully meant accepting uncertainty and choosing to act with love. They sat together in silence, feeling the connection and the weight of possibility. He knew that the decision ahead would shape their lives, but also that it had already changed him by opening his heart to courage, hope, and commitment. He returned home that night, walking slowly through familiar paths, feeling the quiet strength within him. He thought about mornings filled with life-shared responsibilities and small moments that would build a home. He felt that he could face the unknown with her by his side and the possibility of a child in their future. He lay awake reflecting on the courage required and the hope that guided him. He understood that the journey was just beginning, and that each day would bring opportunities to act with care and presence. He felt ready to embrace life fully, not alone, but with someone who shared vision, courage, and love. He woke to a soft morning light filtering through the windows. The house felt still, but alive with the promise of a new day. He thought about the days and nights spent reflecting, talking, and imagining the life they could build together. He realized that he had reached a point where fear no longer dictated his choices. He moved through his morning routine with a sense of calm and purpose. The simple acts of making tea, walking through the fields, and listening to the wind carried a new weight and meaning. He felt connected to life and to the possibility of sharing it with her and a child. He thought about the moments of doubt, the nights of reflection, and the conversations that had shaped his journey. He saw that each step had been preparation for embracing responsibility and hope. He felt grateful for the honesty and courage that had guided them both. He walked to her house and found her waiting with quiet patience. They greeted each other not with words, but with presence and shared understanding. He felt that in these moments, connection was more important than conversation. They sat together in the garden, watching sunlight move across the land. He shared his thoughts about hope, fear, love, and the life they could create. He admitted that he had once been afraid of losing himself, but now he understood that love required sharing life fully and openly. Shay listened with calm strength and nodded, acknowledging his courage. She spoke about her dreams and desires, the child she hoped for, and the home they could nurture together. She did not demand only shared vision and patience. She reminded him that life was built day by day with care, attention, and love. He realized that the decision was no longer about fear, but about choosing hope and connection. He saw that life was fragile and precious, and that embracing it fully required courage and presence. He felt his heart open to possibilities he had once thought unreachable. They spent the day walking through fields and sitting by water, sharing small stories and reflections. He felt a sense of grounding, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together with honesty and care. He saw that partnership was not about perfection, but about presence and commitment. He thought about the future mornings filled with laughter, evenings of shared work, and quiet nights of reflection he imagined. Teaching and learning together, raising a child with patience and love, and discovering joy in ordinary moments. He felt that this vision was now within reach. Evenings came moments of quiet reflection. They watched stars appear in the sky and shared thoughts about life and growth. He realized that connection was built not only in big decisions, but in the small acts of attention, care, and shared experience that made life meaningful. He reflected on his own journey, the walls he had built, and the fears he had faced. He understood that every challenge had prepared him to embrace love, responsibility, and hope. He saw that courage was not reckless, but deliberate choosing to act with intention and heart. She spoke about resilience, the strength found in patience and the beauty of small joys. She reminded him that a child was not only a gift, but a teacher of life, and that love was practiced every day through presence, care, and commitment. He listened and felt the depth of meaning in these words. They walked slowly through the fields, hand in hand, feeling the earth beneath their feet, the soft wind, and the quiet strength of connection. He realized that life was not meant to be avoided or feared, but embraced fully with trust, hope, and courage. He felt ready to face whatever came next. He thought about the child they hoped for and the life they could build together. He saw that love required daily attention and effort, and that each day would bring opportunities to act with care. In presence, he felt the weight of responsibility balanced with the joy of possibility. They returned home as night approached, feeling the quiet satisfaction of shared understanding and commitment. He realized that the journey had already begun. In the choices they had made to be honest, to listen, and to consider a life together, he felt a sense of readiness and hope. He lay awake that night reflecting on courage, love, and the life they had chosen to imagine. He understood that fear was natural, but that it need not control him. He felt the heart open to new experiences and the readiness to act with patience and love. He thought about mornings filled with light laughter and routine, evenings of reflection, shared work, and quiet nights of care. He saw that life would not always be perfect, but that it could be meaningful if approached with presence, attention, and intention. He felt a quiet joy in knowing that they would face life together. The nights passed and the days unfolded with small acts of connection, care, and reflection. He discovered that building a shared life required patience, observation, and willingness to act with kindness. He saw that love was not a single moment, but a series of choices practiced each day. He realized that the decision to embrace hope and connection had already changed him. He felt more alive, more open, and more willing to face uncertainty with courage. He understood that life was not about avoiding fear, but about acting with heart and attention. Thought about the child they hoped for, the life they could nurture, and the lessons they would learn together. He felt that responsibility was not a burden, but a gift, and that love was expressed in daily acts of care, attention, and presence. He saw that embracing life fully required courage, patience, and partnership. They spent time together planning small steps, imagining routines, and sharing reflections. He saw that trust and connection grew in the quiet attention to daily life and the shared commitment to act with care. He felt the depth of human possibility. In these ordinary yet meaningful moments, he returned home each day reflecting on courage, hope, and connection. He realized that life was fragile, precious, and full of opportunity. He felt ready to embrace responsibility, to act with intention, and to face the unknown with love and presence. He lay awake imagining the future, the child they could welcome, the life they could build, and the shared journey ahead. He understood that the path forward required courage, patience, attention, and love, and that each day offered a chance to practice these qualities. He felt a quiet peace, knowing that he could face fear with hope and responsibility with joy. He saw that life was built in small moments of connection, care, and shared intention, and that embracing it fully meant choosing love and presence in every day. He closed his eyes, ready to meet the future with courage, hope, and heart open to the possibilities ahead. The days that followed felt different. He woke each morning with a quiet anticipation. The house smelled of fresh air, and the land outside seemed alive with possibility. He thought about the future not as something distant, but as a path they could walk together. Step by step, he visited her often. They spent time in the garden walking through fields and sitting by water, sharing thoughts about life, dreams, and simple moments. They did not always speak. Sometimes they just sat together, feeling the connection and understanding that had grown between them. He reflected on how much he had changed since she first spoke her truth about wanting a child. He realized that fear had once guided him now. It was courage and hope that shaped his choices. He felt lighter, more present, and more willing to embrace uncertainty. He noticed small things around him, the way light moved across the land, the songs of birds, the laughter of children passing by. He saw beauty in ordinary moments and understood that life could be rich with meaning if he paid attention and acted with care. Talked about practicalities, the routines of shared life, and the responsibilities of raising a child. They considered each choice with patience and honesty, and he realized that planning was not about controlling the future, but about creating space for growth. In car, she shared stories of her own childhood, about learning responsibility, about patience, and about finding joy in simple acts. He listened and felt the strength of human resilience and the lessons of life that could now guide them. Together, he began to imagine mornings filled with laughter and quiet nights of reflection. He thought about teaching and learning with a child, about the small moments that shape character and heart. He realized that the life he had once thought impossible was now within reach. Evenings became moments of calm reflection. They watched the sky and shared thoughts about growth, love, and hope. He understood that connection was built not only in big decisions, but also in the daily acts of attention, care, and presence that made life meaningful. He reflected on past mistakes and missed chances and understood that each had prepared him for the life he could now embrace. He saw that courage required patience and action, and that love was practiced in daily choices rather than single moments. They walked slowly through the fields, hand in hand, feeling the earth beneath their feet and the soft wind around them. He realized that life was to be embraced fully and openly, and that fear was a companion, not a chain. He felt ready to face whatever came next. He thought about the child they hoped for and the home they could create. He saw that responsibility could bring joy, and that love was expressed through shared presence and care. He felt a quiet determination to nurture life and connection each day. He reflected on the courage required to speak truth to one another and to listen. He understood that mutual trust was a gift that needed to be nurtured. He felt grateful for the honesty and patience that had opened a path to shared life and potential parenthood. He began to plan small steps, imagining routines and practices that would support care, connection, and learning. He realized that life was built not in grand gestures, but in consistent attention and shared intention. He felt empowered to act with love and presence. Each day, he felt more ready to embrace the unknown. He understood that uncertainty was part of life, and that choosing hope and connection required ongoing effort. He felt the weight of responsibility balanced by the joy of possibility and shared purpose here. Imagined mornings filled with soft conversations, shared work, and the laughter of a child. He thought about evenings of reflection, small victories, and learning. From mistakes, he felt the depth of human experience and the potential for growth in daily life. They discussed dreams, values, and hopes together, considering how to support one another and a child. He realized that partnership required communication, empathy, and shared effort. He felt the depth of connection that comes from mutual respect and shared vision. Returned home each evening, reflecting on courage, hope, and the practice of love. He understood that embracing life fully required presence, attention, and action. He felt ready to meet each day with intention and heart open to the possibilities ahead. He lay awake, imagining the future, the child they could welcome, and the shared journey. He saw that each choice mattered, and that daily acts of care shaped character and heart. He felt a quiet peace, knowing that he could face fear with courage and embrace responsibility with joy. The nights passed and mornings unfolded with small moments of connection, care, and reflection. He felt that love was not a single event, but a series of actions practiced every day. He saw that life was fragile and precious, and that embracing it fully required courage, patience, and attention. Thought about the child they hoped for, the lessons they said would learn together, and the joy they could discover. He felt that responsibility was a gift, and that love was expressed through daily acts of presence, care, and commitment. He saw that life could be rich and meaningful when approached with intention. And heart, they spent time planning, imagining, and sharing experiences. He realized that trust and connection grew in the small acts of attention, care, and shared intention. He felt the depth of human possibility in these ordinary yet significant moments. Returned home each day, reflecting on courage, hope, and connection. He understood that life was full of opportunities, and that each day offered a chance to act with love and attention. He felt ready to embrace the unknown, the joy of shared life. With patience, courage, and hope, he woke early, feeling the soft light through the windows. The air smelled fresh, and the world outside seemed alive with opportunity. He moved through his morning routine, not just out of habit, but with a sense of intention. In presence, he thought about the days ahead and the life they were building together. He visited her house and found her in the garden, tending to plants. They greeted each other with calm smiles and shared quiet words. He felt a deep connection forming that went beyond conversation. He realized that presence itself could be a form of care and love. They walked slowly through the fields, the earth soft beneath their feet and the wind gentle on their faces. He felt the simplicity of the moment and the depth it carried. He noticed how easy it was to share silence and how powerful it could be to feel understood without words. He thought about the child they hoped for and imagined. Mornings filled with laughter, soft conversations, and small routines that could shape a life. He realized that love was not a single moment, but a series of actions practiced consistently and patiently. Sat by the water and talked about values, dreams, and the future he shared. His fears and hopes she listened with patience and offered guidance without pressure. He felt supported and trusted in a way he had rarely experienced. He remembered the days of fear and doubt and compared them to the quiet strength he now felt. He saw that courage was not reckless, but deliberate, and that hope was not naive, but active. He understood that choosing connection and responsibility was an ongoing practice. They spent the day preparing small spaces for the future, imagining rooms filled with light and warmth. He realized that planning together was not about control, but about creating a home that supported growth, care, and love. He felt excitement and calm at the same time. He reflected on the journey that had brought him here, the conversations, the nights of reflection, and the moments of fear and courage. He understood that each experience had shaped him and prepared him to embrace responsibility and connection with patience and presence. They walked in the evening through fields where the light softened and shadows lengthened. He felt the beauty of ordinary life and the potential it held. He realized that joy could be found not only in grand moments, but in small acts of attention and care shared every day. He thought about the child they hoped to welcome into the world, the lessons they could teach, and the love they could share. He felt a sense of readiness and calm, knowing that fear would always exist but would not control their lives. They shared meals and talked about practicalities of life, parenting, and shared responsibilities. He realized that partnership required communication, empathy, and effort, and that building a life together meant being present and attentive. In ordinary moments, he felt a deep sense of purpose. He reflected on the courage required to embrace uncertainty and the patience needed to nurture a home. He saw that trust and connection grew from small, consistent actions, and that love was expressed in daily acts of presence and care. He thought about mornings filled with light laughter, soft conversations, and routines that created structure and comfort. He imagined evenings of reflection, shared learning, and small celebrations. He felt that the life they were creating was rich and meaningful. They spent time discussing values, priorities, and shared vision. He realized that living together and preparing for a child required attention to detail empathy, and cooperation, he felt confident that they could face challenges together with patience and understanding. He returned home at night feeling calm and inspired. He thought about courage, hope, and connection, and how these qualities had guided him. He understood that life was not about avoiding fear, but about choosing to act with love and attention. He lay awake thinking about the child they hoped for, the home they could create, and the lessons they could share. He saw that responsibility was a gift, and that daily acts of care and presence shaped character and heart. He felt ready to meet the days ahead with courage and love. He walked through familiar paths in the early morning, noticing small signs of life, the song of birds, the movement of leaves, and the soft earth. He realized that beauty and opportunity existed all around if he chose to see and act with care. Spent days sharing time, talking, reflecting, and imagining the future. He saw that trust and connection deepened through shared experiences and the consistent practice of attention and care. He felt a quiet joy in the ordinary moments that built the foundation of their life. He reflected on his own growth, the fears he had faced, and the courage he had discovered. He understood that love and responsibility required ongoing effort, and that each day offered opportunities to practice presence, patience, and care. He felt ready to embrace life fully. They prepared for the future together, imagining routines, shared responsibilities, and the ways they could support a child. They discussed values and lessons to pass on, and felt excitement and commitment for the journey ahead. He realized that partnership was strengthened by honest conversation and shared vision. He lay awake imagining mornings filled with laughter, evenings of reflection, and the life they could nurture together. He saw that the journey was ongoing, and that courage, patience, and love were practiced daily. He felt a deep sense of readiness and hope for the possibilities ahead.